2. And then we're going to do practice test 3 from the beginning. We'll probably have a little extra time. We can do some, whatever additional review that you'd like to do. All right, and I'll hand these back to you. All right, so here we go. Practice test 2, question number 9. Ready? Gotta make sure this is running. Yep. All right, what does A mean? Are you doing this in your ability or something?
No, I'm doing it.
Oh, okay. What's a point? Okay, so I have been given 2 points, but what does the question mean?
Distance.
It means distance. Very good. And if I'm going to get this problem right, then I need to know the distance formula, because that's what it is. That's what I'm doing. So the square root of x minus x squared and y minus y squared. Now, boys and girls, you can do that in any order you want. But the x and x go together, and the y go together, right? So, remember, when you square something, it becomes positive. So 4 minus 6 is negative 2. But when I square it, it becomes positive 4. Right? Now what's going to happen tomorrow is, some of you guys with your calculator, you're going to say, you're going to do 4 minus 6, and the calculator's going to say negative 2. And then you're going to hit squared, and it's going to say negative 4, which is wrong. If you want to square it, it's got to be in parentheses. So if you're using your calculator, please pay attention to what you're putting in. All right, same thing here. What's 1 minus 11?
10.
Well, it's negative 10, but it really doesn't matter, because when I square it, it becomes positive 100. So we have the square root of 104. You get 7/8 credit. You got an answer blank right there. You get 7/8 credit if you put that in. What else do I have to do if I want full credit? I got to try to simplify it. So 104 is 2 times 52. 52 is 2 times 26. Remember, as soon as you break it down, it disappears from your list. 26 is 2 times 13. So I end up with a 2, a 2, a 2, and a 13. So 2 things come out, and everything else stays in. And everything here is multiplied. So that 2 and that 13 are multiplied. And this is the full credit answer. All right? Second part of that, the last question on this particular test, says find the midpoint. All right? How do we do that?
Average.
Average. 4 and 6 divided by 2 is 5. The average of 4 and 6. 1 and 11 divided by 2, 6. The midpoint is 5, 6. Okay, so now we've been through 2 complete practice tests. We're going to start the 3rd one. So this is exactly how it will feel tomorrow. You'll get these 2 pages just like this, right? And you just start working. So what are we doing first? Well, remember, the order can be different. This particular one starts with 3 property questions.
Distributed.
There will be 3 property questions tomorrow, because there's been 3 on every practice, right? There'll be ones that we have practiced. Not going to put in some random, weird thing. Okay, what do you know here? You said something? Scout, what did you say?
I think number 1's distributed.
She thinks this is distributive. She thinks A is distributive. I think she's right. Do you? You can abbreviate that if you want to. As long as I can tell what you mean, it's fine. No points off for spelling wrong, as long as I can tell what it is. All right, Jacob?
B is associative.
B, well,
Commutative.
it looks associative.
Oh, yeah, that's
What's going on in B, guys?
The order change.
the order changes. Does everybody see that? Hey, look at it. I know when you see parentheses, you immediately think associative, but you gotta pay attention to the order of the letters, or numbers. On one side, it's 5xy, on the other side, it's xy5. That's order. And when it's order, it's commutative. And again, you can abbreviate that if you wish, and it's commutative of addition. The distributive property is the only one that you can get by with just one word. All your other properties, you have to indicate if it's add or multiply. Okay? All right, C, same thing. We have to indicate if it's add or multiply. It's an add problem, so I'm gonna go ahead and put add, right? Addition. What property is it? Identity. When you add 0 or times by 1, it's an identity. If you're adding 0 or timesing by 1, it's an identity. Okay? All right, break out a new marker here. All right, done with that one. All right, number 2 is a bunch of solve problems. Remember that the only calculator, you're gonna have a calculator on tomorrow's test, but the only calculator you're gonna have is your grapher. So make sure that you have one, that it has batteries or is charged. See, there's one charging right there. And that you know how to use it. All right, so the reason I say that, the reason I thought of that when I looked at this problem, is these are kind of big numbers, right? How are we going to do this problem? What is going to be our strategy for problem A? Quadratic formula. And because I have a calculator, it really doesn't matter how big the numbers are, because I'm just going to type them in anyhow. So here we go. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared. I'm not putting a negative there. I know b is negative, but what's going to happen when I square it? It's going to be positive, and if I put that negative in there, it's probably going to mess me up. B squared is positive every time. B squared minus 4ac all over 2a. 27 plus or minus the square root of, I like to do that part first. So 27 squared minus 4 times 4 times negative 7 equals 841 I got. Now I'm just going to try something. Take the square root of 841. Whoa, it's 29. So 27 plus or minus the square root of, plus or minus 29 over 8. The square root of 841 is 29. Now you can give me decimal answers for those weird projectile motion ones, but these I want you to actually work out. So we're going to do 27 plus 29 over 8, and we're going to do 27 minus 29 over 8. Well, what's 27 plus 29?
56.
56. Divided by 8 is, so one of my answers is 7. 27 minus 29 is negative 2. So my other answer is negative 1. And that's what goes in the answer blank, those two numbers. Got it? Okay, those of you goofballs that haven't memorized the quadratic formula yet, please have it memorized by tomorrow or by bad things will happen. All right, how about B? What about this guy? What do we do with this guy? This breaks down into 2. So the first one is going to look exactly like the original, except no absolute value. And the second one is going to look just like it, except this turns around and this becomes negative, right? 2 steps there when you write that second one. Then we solve each one, so we just add 2. So x is less than or equal to 5. Add 2. X is greater than or equal to -1. When we have an inequality, less than or greater than problem, we always use a number line to kind of help us out here. So there will be 2 dots on this number line, and they will be colored in dots. And they will be at 5 and -1. Are you with me?
Yep.
Now, whenever there's 2 dots on the number line, we either shade
Outside or
in
inside?
between them or
Outside.
outside of them. This happens to be a
Less
less than. Look at the original problem. It's a less than. Less than means shade inside. So my answer doesn't have any infinities. Infinities are out here. I didn't shade there. The answer is just the area from -1 to 5. And why am I using brackets?
They're also
The dots are closed in, and the dots are closed in because of that right there. All right, what about this guy? What do you want to do with that one?
common denominator.
Figure out what the common denominator is. Don't forget, this doesn't look like a fraction, but it is. The whole problem is fractions. So the whole problem needs the common denominator. So you said 24, so I'm gonna multiply this one by 3, this one by 8, and this one by 24. Are all the denominators now 24? Yep, so I can forget them and do just the top. This one's gonna be a little tricky, be careful. Distribute 9x plus 3. Distribute -8. So it's going to be minus 16x minus 8. I can see arithmetic errors written all over that. Be careful, right? There's a negative here, so it's -8 times 2x, -8 times 1. Okay, now, remember, these are all on the same side, so we're just gonna add them up. 9 minus 16 is -7. If you need your calculator, you're going to have it. 3 minus 8 is -5. I'm gonna add 5. Good grief, I got -53/7. Not a very pleasant answer, but that's the answer. Good? Oh boy, now we got 3 more to solve. Okay, so what do you think about this first one?
We can factor.
Okay, I heard 2 things and they're both magnificent. I heard somebody say use the quadratic formula. Groupies, is this a quadratic?
Yep.
Yep, anytime you got that, you can use the quadratic formula. I heard somebody else say factor. This is an easy factoring problem. You can do it either way, whatever you want. I am gonna factor this one because it is very simple to factor, but If you don't want to factor, well, that's going to be a problem for you in the future. Right now, it isn't a problem because you can do the quadratic formula. And when you do the quadratic formula, you will get exactly the same two answers I got, which are -2 and 5. Right? Now, the quadratic formula is going to take you a little longer, and that's okay. You know how to do it. Those are the dots you're going to get. Now, we're right back to where we were a second ago. We got a number line with 2 dots on it. Now I'm going to shade somewhere. Look at your problem. It's a greater than. So where am I going to shade? Out. So because I'm shading out, this one is going to involve, this answer is going to involve infinities. Right? Because I'm shading out. I have a U in the middle of it, right? So what are my intervals? Right here. Put them in that order, exactly. Negative infinity
Comma negative
to
2.
-2.
Union.
Union 5 to infinity. Now watch your symbols. Infinities are always open. Always parentheses for infinities. These dots are open, so aren't these also parentheses? If those dots had been colored in, these would be brackets. All right, B. Oh, I think B is an easy one. What do you do with B?
Square both sides.
Square both sides. And I do remember in previous years, I do remember kids forgetting to square back. So don't forget, that's gonna be a 36. So it looks like our answer is 31?
Yep.
Now, this is the problem that needs to be checked. Listen to me. If you don't check, I'm not marking it wrong, all right? The problem will be if you got a bad answer. Sometimes these are bad answers. Remember that? They're extraneous. If you don't check, you won't know that, and then you will miss the problem because you'll write down 31 and it isn't a real answer. So I always check. I suggest you do the same. I do not want to cause you any heartache. So if you don't want to check, that's on you. Does this one work? 31 plus 5 is 36, and the square root of 36 is 6. All good. This is the answer, 31. This is my check, which I highly recommend, but I'm not marking it wrong if you don't do it. And last but not least, we have the giant problem. Okay, what do we do with this guy? He's very, very large. Split it up. So we call it factoring by grouping. You don't need to know that. We split it up, right? So what can we take out of the first two?
X squared.
X squared. And what will we have left if we do that?
X minus 2.
X minus 2. Now, we're going to do the same kind of thing here. And we better end up with that, right? So, what are we going to take out to make that happen?
-9.
-9. That will make this a negative. Do you understand that? So when I multiply it back, it gets to be the positive? So we grouped the first two, pulled out what we could. We grouped the second two, pulled out what we could. All right, now what?
Now you're gonna take the x minus 2 and create a new parentheses, and then add x squared minus 9 together, and then you're gonna break that down into x minus 3, x plus 3.
Perfect. All right, so let's back up and make sure everybody followed what Steph said. What she said was absolutely correct. We were at this point, we had factored by grouping. See how they match, so we wrote down the match. Then we wrote down another parentheses that had in the stuff that we took out, right? And then she said, look, difference of squares. We've got to hone in on that. You've got to recognize that's the difference of squares. and it's x plus 3, x minus 3. I know you haven't done this practice test, remember I do it 4 times a day, so you haven't done them as much as I have, but think about it, hasn't every one of these we've done ended up with one of these in it? So be on the lookout for that, and then factor it down. Then we need our answers. No number line. We only do number lines when we have this. This is just x equals. No brackets, no parentheses. What does x equal? If you set this equal to 0 and solve it, x would equal 2, or negative 3, or positive 3. And that's what goes in the answer blank. Okay? Simplify. All right, how about the first one? It's probably the second easiest question on the test. How do we do the first one? You just
Combine like terms.
the negative. So 4 plus 6i minus 4 minus 7i,
And then combine like terms.
and then combine like, oh, whoa. Does that just come down to be negative 1i?
Yeah.
Because these happen to cancel, no big deal, they cancel. So negative 1i is all we have left. You can put 1 there if you want. Okay? Now, this one is not quite as easy. It's still not hard, but it's not quite as easy. What's our strategy for that one? Hey, you two paying attention? The little math conversation there? As long as it's math, I'm okay. I love it, talking math and grinning. That makes me happy. All right. I multiply top and bottom by what did you say? 2 minus 3i. We call it the conjugate, but you just need to know what to multiply by. You change this sign. So since the original problem is 2 plus 3i, I'm going to multiply by 2 minus 3i. I changed that middle sign. Now I just FOIL. So carefully, first times first, outsides, insides, and lasts. And then first times first, outsides, insides, and lasts. All right, are we okay? So now we gotta clean it up, but before you clean it up, I'd suggest you take care of this. What is positive 6i squared? Negative 6, no I, just negative 6. What is negative 9i squared? Plus 9. I squared is negative 1. So when you multiply something by an I squared, it changes sign. So what do we got? It looks like 10 minus 28i over 13. That what you got? Okay, we're half done with the test already, folks. Are you starting to not be afraid? Are you starting to feel like, oh my gosh, I can do this if I prepare? I hope so. All right, number 5, simplify. All right, what do you think?
Negatives.
We gotta get rid of the negatives, so I would definitely move the negatives. Who signed this?
Mr. Panzer.
So I would definitely, move those things. So let's see. see what happens when I do that. I'm just gonna rewrite it. So, there's my 8 and 28. Okay, this is gonna come down, and this is gonna come up. Everybody okay with that? So I move those. This is gonna come down, but you see this guy? He's staying down. He doesn't move because his exponent is not, yeah, it's not negative, it's positive. So don't think you just flip everything, because you don't. You move what's negative. All right, now we're gonna clean it up. What happens with 8 over 28?
It reduces to 2 over 7.
She says 2 over 7. She divided both of these by 4. Regular simplification, right, like always. Now look at your x's. They're stacked, they're on top of each other. That means they'll cancel. There's too many on the top though, right? So how many will there be left over after I cancel? 5 of them? 5 of these are gonna cancel out. Leave 5 on the top. The y's don't cancel. The y's are side by side, so I just total them up. I have a total of 11. Okay? 6 is the easiest question on the test, if you remember what the equation of a circle looks like. There's no work here. You can't fudge your way through it. You either know it or you don't. So, the equation of our circle is going to be x plus 4 squared plus y plus 3 squared equal to 6. Where did these numbers come from? They're the opposite of the center numbers, right? So center was at negative 4, 3, so the 4 goes with the x, the 3 goes with the y. Where did that guy come from?
The radius squared.
He's the radius squared, and you've told me a million times that if I square a radical, it cancels out, right? So that's how I got 6.
The reason they're positive is because 4 was like a negative.
Yep, it's x minus negative 4, it's always the opposite. When you put a number in with x or take it out of x, it's always the opposite. Think about the problem we just did, Jude. We had factors that look like this, right? Or something like that. What did x end up equaling? Yep, it's the same concept. When you put it back in, it's the opposite. All right, write the equation of the line. Step 1.
So, y minus whatever x.
I find the slope. We call that finding the slope, but you don't even need to know the words. Just know how to do it. So 4 minus negative 2, 6 minus 3. Notice I'm writing that down to help myself keep track of it. Try to do too much in my head sometimes. Things get a little whopper-jawed. All right, 4 minus negative 2 is 6 over 3. I got a slope of 2. Half credit for making it this far. How do you get the other half? Plug in a point. I think I'll just use this one. Y minus 4 equals 2x minus 6. Y minus 4, make sure you're doing y minus the y. So y minus 4 equals 2x minus 12. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. Did you get 2x minus 8?
So will the equation come out the exact same no
Yep.
matter what points you use?
Yep. Yep. Does not matter which point you use. This will be the same. That'll look different, obviously, but this will come out to be the same every time.
Okay.
That's why I want you to write it
So
this
like
way.
if you checked it, that you would just
Yep.
check it.
You could do that. You could also check it. I use that point I could check it by taking this point and seeing, okay, if I plug in 3 for my x, I should get -2. 2 times 3 is 6, minus 8 is -2. So I can actually check it with the other point, or I can write the equation with the other point and make sure I get the same answer. I love it, checking your answer, what a great idea. Okay. Next, same thing, except we're writing a perpendicular line. So 3x minus 9y equals 4. I want to be perpendicular to that and contain the point 1, 2. It's sort of the same, a little bit different. How do we start? We start it a different way.
Yeah, y minus that.
Yeah, we have to look at the equation that we have and get the y by itself. Why are we doing that?
Find slope.
So I know the slope of this line. So I'm going to subtract the 3x over. I think I said this yesterday. I don't care where you put the 3x over here. I always put my x first. But if you said 4 minus 3x, that would be fine. Just know you're not done because you have to divide by -9. So y, gotta get y completely by itself. 3 over 9 is 1/3. Don't worry about this guy. This is the important part, right? This means that the slope of that line is 1/3. I'm doing a perpendicular problem. So I don't think I should use 1/3, I think I should use -3. Because if I'm a perpendicular, I have to turn my slope over and make it negative. If I were doing a parallel problem, I could have a parallel problem. If I were doing a parallel problem, then I would use 1/3. All right, then I go back to my point, do what I did over here. Y minus 2 equals -3, x minus 1. So y minus 2 equals -3x plus 3. Please don't mess up your arithmetic. -3 times -1. I got y equals -3x plus 5. One more page to go, and we are done. All right, here we go. Problem number 8. Our projectile motion, here's the formula that you're starting with. And here we go. Write the equation for our particular problem. I know it's going to be h equals -16t squared, because that part never changes. Now I need to put a number here and a number here. Okay? Declan?
Plus 100t and
So plus 100t
plus 0.
plus 0. Why is this number, which is the starting height,
It's not given.
well, not only is it not given, but what does it say?
Starts at the
Ground
ground
level.
level.
Ground level, and if you are at a ground level, your height's 0, isn't it? If you're laying on the ground, like this is like a football, we're gonna kick it and it's on the ground. All right, so there's my equation. By the way, it's quadratic, right? You're gonna wanna use the, most of you are gonna wanna use the quadratic formula, and that is perfectly okay. What's your A? -16. What's your B?
100.
What's your C?
0.
Yeah, no big deal. All right, question B. How high is the ball after 1 second? Oh, that sounds familiar. How high is the ball after 1 second? What do we do?
Plug 1 to 2.
We plug in 1. For all of the t's. Please remember there's 2 t's. Also remember, the 16 is not getting squared. Only the 1 is getting squared. So this is negative 16 plus 1. Is this 84 again? 84 feet?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what we got before, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, we got 84 last time too.
There was different numbers, right, in the
Yeah, it was
problem?
different numbers.
Okay, the answer is not always 84. Okay. Now what? Last question in this part says, when does the ball hit the ground? So back to your equation right here. What are you going to do if you want to know when the ball hits the ground?
0 for
Zero.
0 equals. Now, remember, this is the problem. This and only this is the problem where I want you to actually work it out. I want to see like 5.8 seconds or something like that. The rest of the time you can leave the radicals and all that, but we want an actual number here. So I'm going to have to work this out. So t equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Now, some of you are already typing away, and that's perfectly okay. You got a calculator, do whatever you need to do. But what's going to happen here, since I'm multiplying these together,
It's gonna be 0.
that's going to be 0, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's like this isn't even here. So what do I have? The square root of 100 squared, which is 100. Now if you type all this in, you're going to get 100, but you're going to end up with negative 100 plus or minus 100 over negative 32. Because all of this stuff became 0 because you were multiplying by 0. So my two answers are negative 100 plus 100 over negative 32, and negative 100 minus 100 over negative 32. So you can go ahead and type them in. Well, I don't know, I don't think you should need to type in the first one. The first one's 0, isn't it? And the second one is, did you get 6.25? Now, I'll put seconds on that. I am used to canceling out or crossing out negative answers because they don't make any sense. But I want you to think about what makes this problem a little bit different. If I drew a picture of this one, where does my ball start? In the other ones, it started up here at the top of the building. Where is this ball starting?
0.
It's starting at the ground and going up and coming down. So there really are two places where it's on the ground. But the question says, after I throw it, when does it hit the ground? So would you agree 6.25 is the answer? Okay, that one was a little different because we started with a 0 here. But it doesn't matter how you do it. You do it exactly the same. Whatever the numbers are is what they are. Type them in and go. All right, last question, and we will have just taken the test. Start to finish. Last question is 2 points. This practice test was in exactly the same order as the second one. Please understand the version of the test you get may be in a different order. This might be your first problem, but the problems will be exactly the same. So don't freak out if it looks a little different. The questions are exactly the same. There's exactly the same number of questions. They just might be in a different order. All right, so what does this mean? Distance. So again, easy problem if I know the distance formula. This is something I need to study. Distance formula says x minus x squared
Plus y minus y squared.
plus y minus y squared.
4
Add 'em
plus
up.
9.
Take the square root. Please do your arithmetic carefully. What is negative 4 plus 2? Negative 2, but negative 2 squared is positive 4. 1 minus 4 is negative 3, squared is 9. Oh, you hope you get one like this. Why is that so nice?
Because you don't have it.
That's it, right? Root 13, we're done. Root 12, we would have to do more work, right? But root 13, you are finished. All right, last problem. What is the midpoint? What is the midpoint?
Negative 4 and negative 2 together and then divide by 2.
We average. So negative 4 plus negative 2 over 2. I don't like all these negatives, so I'm writing this one down. So I add my x's and divide, and then I add my y's and divide. Think about how you average. You add and divide by 2. So negative 4 plus negative 2 is negative 6 divided by 2 is negative 3. 1 plus 4 is 5 divided by 2 is 2.5 or 5 halves. 2 1/2. Done. Now, while I've got a few papers to turn back. So what we can do now is whatever you want. So if you have a homework question, maybe I'm turning back the paper and you missed something and you're not sure why, or if you just went through the whole practice test, if there's one particular problem that you feel like we need to spend more time on, I said, we're gonna decide what we're gonna do as a class, so put your phone away. Actually, give it to me. Give me your phone. I'm gonna pick it up from student services later in the day. When won't get down there for a little bit because I have classes, but as soon as I can get it down there, I will, and then I have to pick it up.
At the end of the school day?
Probably, yeah. Alright, Olivia, Kaden, Sandra, Michael, and Zeke. Alright, what are you guys doing? Having a snack? Did you start? That is not one to champions. Alright.
Breakfast at champions.
It is not. A powdered donut is not anything of champions. Okay, so what are we gonna do? Does anybody have any question you wanna ask? We have, what, 10 more minutes. What questions you wanna ask to make us absolutely as well prepared for tomorrow's test as possible? What did I just do that bothers you? Scout.
Can we do 2A on the homework from 7? It's like the ball just thrown.
Okay, so here, Scout's question is a projectile motion. I'm not gonna write out the whole question, but it gives us, the building is 18 feet tall, and the initial velocity is 32 feet per second, and we wanna answer the same questions we always answer. When does it hit the ground, and how high is it after half a second? Okay? So when is it on the ground, and how high after half a second? Okay, those are the two questions. So, step one, I'm gonna write my equation. So I'm called part A, because it's been part A in our practice. H equals negative 16t squared plus 32t plus 18. Again, I don't have time to write the whole question. It said, I'm on a building 18 feet tall, I throw the ball with a velocity of 32 feet per second. So that's my working equation. When is it on the ground? What do I do to figure out when the ball is on the ground?
0 equals.
Put 0 here, right? And then what do I do? Solve for t using the quadratic formula. So negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You still with me, Scout?
Yeah.
Now, I need a number here. I need an answer, like 6.25. So I'm gonna go ahead and work out this radical part. 32 squared minus 4 times negative 16 times 18. So I got negative 32 plus or minus the square root of 2176. So I got all this to work out to be 2176. Did you, Scout? Remember, tomorrow, I'm not typing it in for you. You're typing it in by yourself. Okay? So now I break this up into 2 answers. Negative 32 plus the square root. And negative 32 minus the square root. I type them in individually. Negative 32 plus the square root of 2176 equals, always in equals, and then divided by negative 32. Uh-oh, negative 0.46. And for this one, I got 2.46. So that one, I'm assuming I typed it in right, but that would be my answer. Let me know if you don't get that, Scout. Grant, are you typing that in? Did you get those numbers?
I'm doing it right
Yeah.
All right. Who else? This question is on the test, right? We've practiced it. We're ready for it. All right, who else has it? Oh, wait, I knew the second part. Second part was how high is the ball?
It was just
under-
A that I was confused
Okay, let's
about.
talk about how do we do the second part
now.
though?
Put 1/2.
We go back to our equation and we put 1/2 here and here, right? And then we don't have to do anything except type it in. And if we type it in exactly the way I wrote it, you will get exactly the right answer. On your graphing calculator, some of you are so freaked out because where's the fraction button? Stop. That's 1 divided by 2, right? That's how we put that in, 1 divided by 2. Or if you don't want to mess with it, 0.5, right? All right, who else can think of something that we did that we need an extra shot at? Alex?
The factor by grouping.
Okay. Alright, I gotta plan that one, I can't just wing it, so let me. Alright, so the problem will be solve x cubed plus 4x squared minus 9x minus 36 equals 0. We're gonna solve that. First of all, does everyone recognize, like if this was on the page with a bunch of other stuff, would you recognize this is a factoring by grouping? It is the only problem that we've had that has 4 terms, right? It's long. So we're gonna group it. So Alex, what can we take out of the first 2?
X squared.
And we're left with?
X plus 2. X. Or 4.
Yeah, x plus 4? Okay, because I took out the x squared. All right, what can I take out of these? -9. And that will leave me with a positive x and a positive 4. You took out the negative. So if you take out the negative, everything's positive, right? Unless it was positive to start with, and then it becomes negative. Okay, now what, Alex?
Then don't you do the difference of squares?
Well, let's take it a step at a time. I'm gonna write down my common factor, the match. Then I'm gonna write down what's left, which is the difference of squares. And then I will break it down. And then I can see that my answers are x equals
-4,
-4,
-3,
-3, and 3. Yep. If you know, we've done over and over again, and if you can skip steps, that's okay. Just remember that if you skip steps and screw up, I can't give you partial credit for anything that's not written down. So try to write down as much as you need to write down, so that if you do mess up, I can give you points for what you did do right. Okay? All right, one more pep talk. This is our first Precal test. We're always nervous. First time you take a test with a new teacher. Kids, no nerves, all right? Nobody's nervous.